Welcome to HomeWord. I am Jim Burns, and I have been waiting for this podcast, this exact podcast, for a really long time. Today we have Dr. Morgan Cutlip with us, and you know what? She has an important message. Plus, she messages so well what we're talking about today. She's an incredible communicator, and you know what? It's for moms, but it's also for some dads, too. I think it's time, and she totally agrees with me, I know, because I just read her book. It's time to banish guilt and beat burnout. And I just keep finding people. I was in Atlanta this weekend speaking, doing a parenting conference, and I would say that it was oozing out of the pores of the mothers, okay, and some of the dads too. Just they were just so weary. So we're going to put a more positive light on this, and we're going to ditch mom guilt. So if that's you or you know someone, stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. So let's talk today about you and your needs without really neglecting your kids. So oftentimes moms kind of give up their life, especially when their kids are young, sometimes when their kids are teens, but they just sort of give up their life and they don't have a life. They don't want to ever say the word self-care. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And instead, we're going to talk about how do you love your kids without losing yourself. By the way, that's the title of Morgan's book, and it's a great book. I read it this week, cover to cover, and it is a great book, and I think you'll want to pick this up. Morgan is a highly sought-after relationship expert who's on a mission to empower, especially women, in all things with their relationships. And she's been featured on Good Morning America, Teen Vogue, the New York Times, Women's Health Magazine, and a whole lot more, okay? And so you're going to see this in a minute. I do have a random backstory before I begin. So Morgan and I met in a park. I know that sounds so weird, but her son was playing wiffle ball, and my grandson, James, was playing wiffle ball, and we connected, and I had already met her dad and her mom. I'd actually been in their home. Her dad wrote a book called How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk, and it's just like the best title I've ever heard of any book ever, and great title, great book. But her message is for moms and basically especially millennial moms, and we have so many millennial moms all over this world who are listening to this podcast, and some Gen Zers too. Well, you're going to love this woman. This is a two-part podcast. We hardly ever do these, but it's two-part because she also has written a great book called A Better Share. We're going to talk about that next time, and that's on relationships and intimacy and all kinds of good stuff. Morgan, welcome to the podcast.
I'm humbled. That is the nicest introduction.
Really?
Thank you.
Oh my gosh! And
so
here,
good to be here.
It sounded kind of weird when I said we met in a park, but then we talked about this. We were at that game, and all of a sudden I went, "This is a very special, amazing person." And after reading your book, I totally get it.
Thank you.
In fact, I'm handing this book, Love Your Kids Without Losing Yourself, to all three of my daugers.
Oh, then I'll give you some more.
Yeah, honestly, I'm handing it to them, and I'm going to say, I never do this. I mean, I always say, with our adult children, we should keep our mouth shut and whatever. I'm going, you need to read this book. I will pay you to read this book. You say that women, with two women, we mom so hard. What does that mean? Do you think motherhood is harder today than it ever has been?
I do. I do think
too.
I think it's a lot harder for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
In the book, I talk about some core conflicts that make motherhood,
which we'll bring up.
Hard. Yes,
yeah,
if I can remember.
Right. Exactly.
The core conflicts, and I think there's many reasons that make it incredibly hard.
Yeah.
So the first is just what you kind of mentioned in the introduction, which is this struggle that moms have negotiating between my needs versus the needs of everybody else.
Right.
And as moms, as women, really in general, we've been socialized to put our needs on the back burner, to self-sacrifice for the preservation of our relationships.
Right.
And I think, I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But when we become moms, we have to go on the back burner to keep our children alive.
Right.
And I think a lot of us moms get stuck there. And, we had a few years, just got to make it through the baby phases, just got to make it through toddlerhood. Eventually, I'll sort of get my turn. And before you know it, they're like 18, and we don't even know who we are anymore.
No. And you're kind of, I see a lot of moms who are like, okay, it's Thursday. I can get through Thursday.
Right.
Oh, my goodness, it's Friday. It's the greatest thing, having a family. And yet at the same time, because they're not putting any energy into their own self-care.
Yeah.
There was a guy who used to say we should put 50% of our leadership into ourself, not just on somebody else. And it's not, as you said this, I love this because I thought, well, you said it's not pedicures and bubble baths. So I went, you know what? I have never had a pedicure, and I think I took a bubble bath when I was little. Sounds pretty good to me right now.
Yeah.
But it's even more, taking care of so much of yourself. So yeah. So we mom hard today, and I think it is harder.
Yeah.
I think we always blame social media. Sure, social media could be part of that, but it's just this breathless pace in which we live our lives, and moms take the burden. It's not that dads are getting great. They're doing so much better.
They are.
But it's still, the mom world. You mentioned that you were almost not going to use the word self-care in the book. You said that. And yet really, self-care is a super good thing. And I think sometimes women get that mistaken, as you were saying, with selfishness.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Can I go back to the first question?
Sure,
I just want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of reasons why I think motherhood is a bit harder today, but one in particular that I think just needs more sort of conversation around, more playtime, is the intensity with which we're parenting.
Yes.
And whatever you want to call it on social media, or if you heard a podcast, but this idea of almost like cycle breaking, or we're raising these kids to have emotional intelligence versus just good behavior or obedience. And that requires so much more patience, so much more time, so much more research, so much more opportunities to feel like you sort of messed up.
Yeah.
And I think that is one defining sort of feature of the millennial parenting experience that has put a lot more on moms in particular.
Yeah. I have to say to moms all the time, and millennial moms, I have to say, really good parents have kids who are going to mess up. Because they're like, it's my fault that my son or my daughter did this. And I go, wait, that's just normal behavior for a kid.
It's being kids.
Yeah. So, but we do that all the time.
Yes.
And I think you're right. I think maybe because of the amazing amount of information people have, or all their friends do this, or what it looks like on social media, because everybody looks like they're all together and their families are all together, and they just have a harder time. I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, there's this whole I'm part of it. So I realize my contribution in this way, but there's this whole expert culture on social media that makes us feel like we have to find almost like the perfect phrasing for how to talk to our kids.
No, I know.
And it's gotten out of control.
No, it has.
But I say to moms a lot, no matter what, every kid is going to leave childhood with something.
Yeah.
And it's because the way that we interpret things as individuals are often different than the other person's intention.
No, I really like that. No, it's really good.
And so
our people need to hear that.
Yeah,
that's so
you have the best intentions as a parent. Your kid's going to interpret it a little differently sometimes.
Sure. So no, and it depends on the day and the hour and the time. And you say you're partly to fault because you're an expert, and you are an expert. You see this in the book, but you're also authentic, and so you're an authentic mom. And I think today we've got to be talking to people, not as only the expert that's never had a fight, the kid has never had diarrhea, you've never had diarrhea of the mouth with your spouse, whatever it is. We need to be real.
Yeah.
Because we can identify. I find Kathy and I were doing a marriage conference not too long ago, and in the middle of it, we took a break, and she goes, "Hey, so every illustration you gave at the beginning was about our high maintenance marriage."
She was like, "I'm insulted."
She goes, "You can give we actually do have good things." I go, "I was just trying to identify with the people." And she goes, "I get it. You identify."
We're over-identifying.
Yeah. Please. No, but it is funny that way. Self-care.
Self-care. Yeah. What was the question? Can you?
The question was, you almost didn't put it in your book. You said in the book.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think of self-care as selfishness.
Yeah, I think so. That's not why I didn't put it in. Didn't put it in the book. I almost didn't put it in the book because I feel like we've numbed out to it.
Yeah,
it's incredibly important, but we see it everywhere, and so now it's come to represent this laundry list of things moms should do to take care of themselves. That honestly we don't really have time to do.
Right.
And so it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
But it is the best and most well-known term for it. And in terms of the selfishness piece, I think we have to really understand
Right.
that when we kind of going back to the first question, we back burner ourselves for so long.
Yeah.
And we do it sort of in the name of caring for the people we love the most. That's why we do it.
Right.
I love my family.
Sure.
Like I really want to give them the best. But what happens is over time, and it's just a human response, is that we start to get resentful.
Yeah.
Because we can't tell, where we end and they begin, and nothing feels like it's about us, and we haven't showered in a week, and we're wearing the same leggings and all these things.
Right.
And so we compromise and sacrifice for the people we love most, and we end up resenting the people we love most. So you have to, and I'd say more like you have to manage your relationship with yourself. You have to really care for yourself on a deep level. Yeah. In order to preserve and protect the relationships that are most important to you.
I love how you said that. I tell people in the area I was talking this weekend to a group, and I was talking about sexuality, actually talking to your kids about sex. But I said, I'd rather have you have 100 one-minute conversations than 100-minute conversations.
Yeah.
But when it comes to self-care, sometimes it's not, I need a vacation to Maui, which would be nice for everybody. But sometimes it's taking that 1-minute vacation. I used to laugh that my wife would, she would do it when I was there because somebody needed to manage, 3 crazy kids. But she would go, I'm just going to go into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then I would see her bring like a magazine, like a paper magazine. Who even has these anymore? But I would see her go in, and so I know she wasn't using the facility, or maybe she did. She was just like, the door was blocked, and went, okay, Jim, you're on. And I think we need that. And I think a lot of times husbands can do a better job with moms on that. Saturday mornings in our family, and I think this is probably why I still struggle with weight, because Saturday mornings, Kathy, it was not her time. She could do whatever she wanted to, but it was not her time to be with the kids. And I took them to donuts every time. And I would have never told my wife the amount of donuts that we ate and the amount of sugar I put into those kids. But that became a special time for me. Yeah. But it was also, that small time where she knew that she at least had Saturday. And, even when our kids were younger, I was a speaker. And so I might be gone on a Saturday, and she would really miss those times.
Oh, yeah.
So, we've got to.
That may have been her life raft during the week, having that to look forward to.
You mentioned the word at the beginning. We were talking about core conflicts. What is a core conflict that people have with their parenting or even in their marriages? But we're talking today about love your kids without losing yourself. So talk about the core conflicts.
Yeah, so I give 3 core conflicts, and that's in the chapter about why motherhood feels so hard. And I just have this overarching belief in, anything I teach about, which is that when we can provide some language or some framework around invisible concepts, it empowers us to actually then do something about it. It's almost like when you're just experiencing something and you have no definition around it, it feels like I have no agency then.
Yeah.
So I wanted to define that for moms. So the first is what I sort of mentioned already, which is my needs versus the needs of everyone else.
Sure.
The second core of conflict is my reality versus my expectations.
So good.
And, I think something we don't really recognize sometimes ever in parenthood or in motherhood, but we really need to give some attention to are the expectations we bring into it around what kind of mom we think we're going to be.
Yeah, right.
And I talk about my own story in the book, but I went into motherhood with a super mom from the 80s, 90s.
Right.
So I took that template, I put it on myself, and I was like, well, I guess I got to be, the room mom, PTA. My mom was the president of the Board of Education, which is an elected position, okay? It's absolutely bananas. The first mom.
This was in Ohio.
In Ohio.
We now live here in California, but it was
not
Ohio,
in California.
Right? Yeah.
The first MOPS, which is now Momco, I spoke at, my mom was in the audience. I was like 40. She's coming to my extracurriculars still to this day. She's insane. She's amazing.
Yeah.
But my life looked very different. But I didn't recognize that I literally just took that same template, placed it on myself. That became a bunch of my expectations for myself as a mom. Yeah. And my reality was so distant from these expectations I held myself to. That's that gap between is where we feel like we're not enough.
Yeah.
We're falling short. We're never getting it right. So that's a big one. That's important for moms to just unpack. The type of mom I thought I'd be is what do you feel alone with?
Right.
And then the third is what I mentioned, which is I don't remember exactly how I phrased it in the book, but basically like the intensity of my parenting standards versus I'm a good enough parent.
Yeah, good enough. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And good enough is actually quite amazing.
Yes.
Our kids need to see us mess up.
Yeah.
I messed up big time this morning. Maybe we'll get to something like that. But our kids need to see that we are human, that we make mistakes, and we know how to repair.
Yeah.
And so there's learning opportunity in not being the perfect parent.
No, it's really good. I remember you saying being good enough is better than being the perfect parent.
Yeah.
Good enough is good enough.
Yeah.
And in that, you had a pediatrician talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
And I love this. This pediatrician freed you up big time.
She did, yeah.
What did she say to you?
It was during our sons. So I have 2 kids. Their names are Effie and Roy. They're 12 and 9.
Love those names too, by the way.
I'm always like, they're not geriatric. Yeah. They're 12 and 9. They're old people names, but I love them. It was Roy's first visit to the pediatrician after he was born.
Right.
And I remember the pediatrician saying to me, so Effie was 2.5 years, almost to the day older, and she goes, just make sure you get in 15 minutes a day with her of alone time. Just 15 minutes. And I remember being shocked and confused. I thought I misheard her. So 50 minutes?
Yeah.
15? I was like setting up Montessori little boxes and, had all these crafts. I mean, I was over the top losing my mind trying to make sure she was okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, just 15 minutes is all it takes. And it was nice to hear that.
Right.
And also I think I still pushed back in my own sort of set of expectations.
No, true. And we do come with our own set of expectations. And like you say, you had super mom. Some people have no mom.
Yes.
And sometimes that happens, where maybe they came from a totally dysfunctional family. So they go, I'm not going to be like my mom. I'm going to be super mom. And it's just a hard thing, to think about. I know that there's a lot of people who are leaning in right now, going, "Wow, I want to talk to her personally. I want to get more information," and they're feeling, overwhelmed. They're feeling burnout. We're going to take a break right after this, but I want you to give us just kind of a couple practical thoughts on what do you say to the woman who comes to you and says, "Okay, totally overwhelmed, totally burnout." What do you say?
This isn't always the most favorite answer, but when we're in that place, we are often incredibly disconnected and disassociated from ourselves.
Yeah, right.
So the first thing you have to do is get in a regular practice of almost doing, I call it a self-check-in or a system scan.
Right.
What am I thinking? What am I feeling?
Yeah.
What's going on with my body?
Right.
And doing an entire check-in because we have to start to rebuild that connection so we can identify with what do we need.
Yeah.
So either we can ask for that need, meet that need ourselves, whatever, articulate that need, or we can at least define it and put a pin in it and come back to it later.
Yeah.
But rebuilding that self-awareness and connection is the first step.
It's interesting. And you said that so well in the book as well. And when I was thinking about it in terms of my own life, because I was thinking, like I get up earlier than Kathy does, and I get up earlier than even when my kids, I'm just an early guy. But, I kind of read the Bible a little bit and then I kind of journal and I sort of do my thing. And if I don't get that time, it's a discipline. Yeah. Now, and if I don't get that time for a long time, then I don't do well with myself. Yeah. So I think we need to, how am I doing when we talk about primary relationships, relationship with God, relationship with our spouse, relationship with our kids, we forget a primary relationship. There's one with us.
Yeah.
And so we have to make sure we're taking care. And we don't need to do this for hours. We're not monks. We're not nuns. We're not, we're just somebody who has to make sure that we are taking care of our own soul, nurturing our own soul, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And that's key. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. See, I told you this was going to be good, and it is so good. We'll be right back. All things Dr. Morgan Cutlip are on our podcast notes. Pick up this book. If you're looking on our YouTube channel, you're going to see it. It's really a great book. And you know what? It's pretty easy to read, too. She's even got diagrams in here. Okay? See, can you see that? Anyway, very practical, very authentic. Okay? So pick up the book. If you read one parenting book this year, make this your book. And like I said, it's going to become my go-to book for moms. I love it. Anyway, we'll be right back.
We're here tonight at the Lion Air Museum in Orange County. And the reason I'm so excited about this venue, besides the fact that it's beautiful, it represents why we're here tonight. just like this place has the Great Plains, but that airport has the latest. We've got 40 years of tried and true biblical foundational equipment and resources to help families, pointing us towards the future. So super excited about HomeWord, what God's going to do. So stay tuned as we honor 40 years, but look forward to the future of what's coming.
Moving forward, while the future of HomeWord is incredible, we are looking to provide help and hope in every chapter of your family story, knowing that every family has a family story and it's a little bit different. And so we want to be there to provide help and hope in those challenging times and in those exciting times for the next generation and the generation after that.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Burns. I'm smiling because this is a great conversation. I just know that people are, I use the word leaning in, so they're leaning in or they're watching on the YouTube channel. Dr. Morgan Cutlip is with us today. Her book is called Love Your Kids Without Losing Yourself, a really, really good read. And I think we could probably do an entire podcast on this one, but you write about creating a lasting connection with your kids and with your spouse and with your relationship. I mean, you write a lot about connection. We're going to talk about it in the next podcast as well. But how do you create lasting connection with your kids? Give us some practical thoughts on that.
I mean, there are like a million ways to do that. I think one way is just by being somebody who is available to them, available to listen, to do it without a lot of speaking. That's what I've learned as I have a tweenager right now. The better listener I am. I think one thing that we don't talk about a lot that becomes really powerful is keeping your own attitude about your kids in check.
Yeah, it's really good. Talk about that. Explain that to us.
Yeah, so I talk about this in the book as it relates. I think I give the example of my son as it relates to how we think about our kids, but also how we think about ourselves as moms. But and I can talk about this in the next book too. But in all of our relationships, we start to create an internal picture of the person we're in relationship with. We call it a trust picture. So we're sketching this picture. Part of how we sketch it is based on facts, so the things that are like factually true. But the majority of the way we sketch it is based on our opinions, judgments, and thoughts about what we get to know about them, these facts. And we do this with our kids. And if you really take a minute to examine how am I sketching this picture, a shortcut is the story I'm telling myself about my kid. Yeah. A lot of times we can start to highlight the ways that they're maybe falling short, the way that they're letting us down, the way that they're, not obeying or they're not behaving in a way that we think is ideal. Right. And it starts to impact how we treat them, how we draw conclusions, make assumptions, how we talk to them, how we react to things. Yeah. And this has been one of the most important tools in my own parenting journey to check in on. Because our kids' behavior is triggering sometimes. Sure. And so if we're going to react to it in a way that kind of builds connection, opens lines of communication, we have to make sure the story we're telling ourselves about our kids is accurate. Right.
That's really good, because sometimes the story we're telling ourselves about our kids is not good. It's not good for us. It's not good for them. We're projecting on them, all kinds of things like that. When I wanted to ask you this question, and you refer to it in this, but I just feel like you have some good insight on this. If you were going to sit with some dads And dads are great now. I mean, I honestly, the previous generation, the dads were a little bit distant and they didn't connect as well and things like that. But if you were going to give some suggestions to dads in terms of how they could be more effective fathers, and also help their spouses who are kind of taking the load, what advice would you give them?
I would love to see dads take a little bit more ownership and leadership around getting on the same page with their partner and their significant other around like the big things in parenting.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer that we got to let parents parent uniquely in their own ways. There's a lot of benefits to things that fathers do that a lot of times annoy moms.
Right.
Rough housing, getting them riled up before bedtime.
Yeah.
There's actually research that this is like good stuff.
Yeah.
Teasing actually is sort of a rite of passage for a lot of men. There's good things in how men parent uniquely, but I would love for them, so perhaps around, how are we going to respond to a tantrum?
Yeah.
This is a big one. I would love for men to step into that, initiate the conversation.
Right.
Maybe listen to a podcast, read a book, and start to step into that work with their wives, because one of the big complaints that I see from women is they feel like they're managing all the relationships in the family. They're managing their marriage, they're managing their parenting, they're managing, all of these. And so to have a partner step into that work with her, she'll feel like she has a teammate. Yeah. She'll feel like he's really invested in it, and it will go a long way for the kids and their marriage.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And I think the woman typically is managing it all.
Oh, yeah. And then she's like the nag. She's like, watch this reel, read this book.
No, exactly. No, right. I mean, the way I describe my wife, Kathy, with our girls, because we have all girls, no hormones or drama in our life. Oh, yeah. But anyway, she was kind of the sun, and the girls were the planets revolving around her. And I would step in and step out.
Yeah.
But, and I would say, my girls would say, oh, Dad was a very engaged dad.
Yeah.
And I am. And I have certain traits that Kathy doesn't have. And, we did great, probably. However, she still led the show. Yeah. She managed the relationships, and she juggled, and she made the home work. Yes. And I found in my own life what I needed to do sometime was get in line with her. I mean, just get in line. I mean, it's not like, in many ways, she led a lot of stuff in the home, but I needed to get there and serve her. How, jump in, get my hands dirty, whatever, and not just be the dorky dad that we see from way old television shows. Every dad was, kind of this dorky dad. Well, the truth is a lot of those dads were that way, and yet today's dad, I think, has a much greater desire. What I'm saying to women more and more is they want to please you. They want to help. They honestly don't know what to do. So you got to tell them. Yeah. I had an experience with Kathy where we've been married 51 years. And she goes, hey, we go, and we love movies. So she goes, when we go to the movies, you always hold my hand. I'm like, yeah. She goes, I want you to put your arm around me. And I go, after 51 years, you're now telling me this? Yeah. So I put my arm around her. I last for about 30 minutes, and my arm goes dead. Of course. So I move it. I hold her hand, and she just takes my arm. I'm doing this as the YouTube people can see this, but she kind of puts me there, and so then I figured out how to be more comfortable. That was really helpful. Yeah. I mean, I always put my arm around her now because she told me to, right? But if she would have said, hey, I would really like you, say when our girls were teenagers, but I would really like you to have more conversations about, relational type conversations with them. I'll handle their periods, and I'll handle their, the girl stuff. Yeah. But they really need, your insight. And I really, I want them to get to know you that way.
And that's a gift to give that to our spouse.
To our spouse.
Because we're setting them up for success.
No, exactly.
And so often I don't understand it. It just baffles me, but we withhold our wants and our desires and our needs. And I do understand, because some people don't receive them, don't receive them well.
A topic of this conversation. We're withholding things. And again, I'm not saying go weird. I'm just saying share what you need. What do you want? Yes. And if they can help, great. And if they can't, then you may have to find a girlfriend to have some of those kind of conversations.
Yeah, well, what I see in moms a lot around needs is, and I understand this desire very deeply, is that we really want somebody else to initiate our own caretaking. It's almost like we outsource our needs. Oh, well, when my husband tells me to take a break, then I'll take my break. How come you haven't told me? Right. And we do have to, and that's nice, and that'd be wonderful. Right. But also we have to take some ownership over letting our family know when we need something.
No, that's really good. I see that. I have two daughters. One of my daughters hasn't been married that long, so she doesn't have any children, but the other two do, and I see them doing this pretty well at times, telling their husbands, I'm going to go to yoga.
Yes.
I'm going to go get a coffee. I'm going to do this. Can you handle? And they would do, and they do it. They go, of course, yeah, sure. But they do it all the time. I'm going to go for a run, and the guys just go. They don't even ask for permission, where the woman oftentimes needs to do that. So I think we do need to be more proactive about that. Anyway, thank you. This guy has gone by way too fast. We could have talked all day.
There's a lot more, I know.
So much more. And again, Dr. Morgan Cutlip has great stuff. She has a great website. It's called mylovethinks.com. Go to it. Find out about a course. Find out about some of the other types of things. All this information is in our podcast show notes. And again, the book is called Love Your Kids Without Losing Yourself, my new go-to book for moms. Hey, before we leave, though, Morgan, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Before we go, let me give you just a couple of thoughts. One is there are no perfect kids. And you know what? There's no perfect parents, so release that, okay? And, there's some good enough parents, and there's some good enough kids, and nobody's going to be perfect, and you got to understand that. And kids who are really great will make some poor choices sometimes, and parents who are really great will have kids who make poor choices. So, understand that. No doubt you're doing a better job than you think, because how do we measure parenting? How do we measure relationships? I mean, we could always flunk them, but I think you're doing a lot better job. Another thing that really came out, kind of on the surface of me when I was reading her book, was make sure you have serious fun in your life, whatever that means for you. Excuse me. This week, make sure you have some serious fun, whatever that means for you. My PhD was done in traits of a healthy family, and one of the top 10 traits is families that play together stay together. And I believe that families that pray together stay together too. I really do believe that. But a family that plays, a family that has fun, it really makes a difference. Play and fun open up a closed spirit with your kids. Play and fun open up a closed spirit with your spouse if you're married. Play, it draws you together. It builds traditions, things like that. So go have some fun with your family. And this sounds crazy, but go have some fun just period for you. If that means that you're going to take a break, take a rest, go for a jog, go get some coffee, do whatever you want to do. But build into your own life so that you can be there for your kids. And then don't forget that God cares deeply for you. Some of you are hurting like crazy as a parent. Maybe you feel like you're doing it alone. So many, and you've heard me say this a lot, so many of you who are single parents, you do a great job. You just don't have somebody affirming you on the side, and you're exhausted. I get it. So know that God cares deeply for you, that here's a word directly from the Bible. You are the apple of my eye. Isn't that amazing? That's God. He says that about you, and he says that about me. And sometimes we don't feel like anybody's apple of their eye, but God says you're the apple of my eye. And he also adds one more thing. I'll never leave you or forsake you. So if you're feeling that way, know that he does not leave you and doesn't forsake you. Life is messy. Families are messy. And I think God says, I'm okay with the mess. And so, go a little lighter on yourself today. And like I said, he says, I'm okay with messes. If you are a regular subscriber to our podcast, well, you know that I usually don't make much about the next podcast, but we have another podcast with Morgan, and it's on an incredible book that she wrote called How Couples Can Tackle the Mental Load for More Fun, Less Resentment, and Greater Intimacy. Her book says, and great sex. I called it Greater Intimacy. This is a PG-rated show here. But anyway, if there's anything that we can ever do for you at HomeWord, you can go to HomeWord.com. Lots of great help, lots of great resources, the largest provider of parenting seminars in the United States. So if you want to bring out some of our people to come and do a parenting seminar for you, I just did a parenting conference this last week in Atlanta, as well as a bunch of other stuff. But I loved it. I love that parents are willing to get down, listen, take notes, try to work it out, and hopefully be affirmed. So don't hesitate to come to HomeWord and figure out how you can maybe bring a group to your church, to an organization. Until next time, I'm Jim Burns.